Welcome into this edition of the Vinyl Voyage with Keegan Matheson. I am your host, yours truly, and today we're talking about one of my favorite artists of all time. Coming from Seattle, Washington and the grunge movement, it is Chris Cornell, one of the best grunge vocalists of all time and best vocalist of all time in my opinion, a top 5 vocalist for me, definitely. And I wanted to get out of the way first what happened to Chris Cornell. So Chris Cornell took his own life in Detroit, Michigan, May 18th, 2017. He left behind 3 kids, Tony, Lillian, Christopher, and his wife, Vicky. So if you or someone you know is dealing with suicide or suicidal thoughts, please call the Suicide Prevention Hotline, which is 1-800-273-8255. The number on the bottom of your screen will take you there. Thank you guys for taking that in for a little bit. I didn't mean to bring down the whole episode here, but I just wanted to bring awareness to the dangers of depression and suicide and taking your own life. Chris Cornell is actually one of my favorites of all time, so when I heard the news in 2017, I had never really had a celebrity that I really looked up to and idolized more than Chris Cornell. So his taking of his own life was very, very heartbreaking for me, and nowhere near as heartbreaking for his family. And I'm sure they would do anything to have him back. So if you're feeling that way, absolutely that's not the right decision to make. All right, so with that out of the way, let's talk about how he would want to be remembered. His fantastic music. So I'm going to talk about his top 5 albums of his career, his very illustrious career, during different multiple bands, and also supergroups. He was part of a lot of supergroups and part of one of the biggest grunge bands of all time, Soundgarden. So let's start it out with his honorable mention for his top 5 albums, and I picked Higher Truth, which was his last studio album before he passed away. Nearly Forgot My Broken Heart is one of the singles on here. It's a beautiful song. And what I love about this vinyl version is it has bonus tracks, 5 of them to be exact, and some of them are very good, like Misery Chain, Bend in the Road. They're beautiful songs, and the album cover is even prettier. This was released September 2015. Like I said, it was the 4th and final studio album by Chris Cornell, and it was produced by Brendan O'Brien. You know him from U2, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen. He's basically been just around everywhere, producing all kinds of major artists that you've all heard about. So I was supposed to see him in Charlotte at the Belk Center, I think, in 2016. But at that time, I was a freshman in college and didn't have all the funds in the world. And if I could go back and I could pay for one ticket for myself, with the finances I have now, then I would want to go see him in his solo jaunt there in the Higher Truth Tour 2016. But, you know, you live, you learn. All right, so let's go ahead and top off the list. So number 5 on the list I have is Temple of the Dog. This is an interesting album because Temple of the Dog is basically a combination of Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. Soundgarden meaning Chris Cornell's part of it, and the rest of the members are members of Pearl Jam. So the band was started as a tribute to Chris's friend Andrew Wood, who had died from a heroin overdose. He was the original lead singer of Mother Love Bone, and 2 members of this band were also in Mother Love Bone. Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard were the other 2 members of Mother Love Bone, and they did this band as a tribute to him. And songs like Hunger Strike and Say Hello to Heaven were tributes to the man. Hopefully he's up there in heaven and like this album. And my goodness, this is pretty interesting to see Chris Cornell team up with Pearl Jam at the time, one of the biggest bands in the world. Tenet came out, and then you had Bad Motorfinger, so you knew these 2 giants from their respective bands, Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, and seeing them team up is like the Justice League with Superman and Batman of the grunge scene, at least. So it was just Superman and Batman with denim on. But that Temple of the Dog record is absolutely fantastic. All right, so on the next album on the list, is fourth of all time for Chris Cornell's career. I picked Audioslave's self-titled debut, Audioslave. This one came out in 2002, and songs like a Stone and I'm the Highway really cemented Audioslave as a radio-friendly rock group. And basically what Audioslave was Rage Against the Machine with Chris Cornell as the vocalist. When the original singer, Zach De La Rosa, left Rage Against the Machine, producer Rick Rubin, you know him from the old Johnny Cash albums, his last Johnny Cash, the American recordings. And Slayer, Kendrick Lamar, the Avett Brothers, if you're local. Rick Rubin's been everywhere. He's touched so many lives in the music industry. And he pretty much masterminded this band, apparently, with Audioslave. And I'm so glad he did, because these are some of their greatest songs. And he was able to draw back on those when he did his solo tours and stuff. So, Audioslave, 2002. The band's members were Tom Morello, Tim Comerford, Brad Wilk, and Chris Cornell, of course. Beautiful album from 2002. It doesn't sound that dated. It sounds pretty good. You can still listen to it today. Like a Stone is absolutely one of the biggest radio hits of my childhood. That's for sure. All right, moving on. So, third album is Soundgarden. This is our first Soundgarden on the list, and I would say Chris Cornell was known most for being the front man of Soundgarden. An absolutely legendary grunge act. I love this cover. It's pretty cool. It's kind of lenticular here. But songs like Rusty Cage, Outshine, Slaves and Bulldozers, New Damage, Jesus Christ Pose, all of those are on this album, and it really cemented them as one of the grunge legends of 91. There was a lot of competition in 91 because you had Nirvana, Nevermind, and 10 by Pearl Jam, but I always have been a Soundgarden fan, and I think that they are the best grunge band of all time. And I don't think you can really touch this record as far as when it comes to positive grunge, unless we talk about the number one slot, Super Unknown. Spoilers, sorry. All right, so this is the third out studio album. And let's talk about the members of Soundgarden for a minute. So it's Chris Cornell's vocals, of course, Kim Tahill, which is the lead guitarist, Ben Shepherd on the bass, and Matt Cameron on the drums. Matt Cameron is also the drummer for Temple of the Dog and Pearl Jam. So he gets around a little bit in the grunge scene here. Matt Cameron is very busy, and he is the drummer of Pearl Jam to this day. So if you go see them now, which you probably can't because there's a pandemic going on, but he's still the drummer of Pearl Jam, which he's a very talented drummer and fantastic. And you can hear that showcased on Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger. Absolutely legendary album. All right, moving on. So this is the second best Chris Cornell record in my opinion, and it is his solo record, Songbook. Songbook is a live acoustic album, and it features songs recorded during the Songbook tour, a solo acoustic tour from March to May of 2011. Scar Upon the Sky is probably my favorite song in this album. He does a Thank You Led Zeppelin cover, which is pretty cool, and I think that's pretty good. He does Imagine by John Lennon. If I'm thinking about Chris Cornell, I think about this album, and you know me, I'm just so keen on seeing an artist that's already established do their work in this format of just a stripped down acoustic version and just their voice, because you can really hear every bit of emotion in the voice in albums like this. And even if it's live like this, it absolutely shines through. I absolutely will keep coming back to this album for if I ever have a Chris Cornell itch. And this particular record is very valuable, really. Check the Discogs listing, and that's just an online record collecting site. And the lowest sold for $95, and the highest is sold for $206. So very, very sought after record, this one. I'm so glad I have it in my collection. It's a nice little gatefold here. All right, open it up. Very beautiful packaging. But he also does Audioslave and Soundgarden songs on here. So if I'm going to delve into Chris Cornell, this is a way to go if you want to go solo. Here, look at me putting it in the sleeve already, just because it's just so minty fresh. Thank you for bearing with me on that. All right, let's talk about number one. Super Unknown, probably my favorite grunge album of all time. People usually put this up there with Alice in Chains' Dirt, Nirvana, Nevermind, Pearl Jam 10. This is absolutely up there, and probably my favorite grunge album of all time, and it is Soundgarden, Super Unknown. Just what can you say about this record except that it's full of singles and great songs. It's their fourth studio album. It came out March 8th of 1994, which my sister, who was 26 years old, wouldn't have even been born yet. She wouldn't have been born until June 16th. So this is BK, before Kirsten. But this album has songs like Black Hole Sun, Fell on Black Days, Spoon Man, 4th of July. It's a 74-minute album, but it's full of just great grunge songs. And I know a lot of people get off-put by the grunge title, but it's basically just rock music that's a little bit sped up and a little bit more amp, a little bit more juice to it, and a lot more flannel. Gotta have the flannel, man. You can't have grunge without the flannel, and that was absolutely what was happening here. So the cover is called The Screaming Elf by the photographer. So the drummer was cut out of the actual Matt Cameron, was actually cut out of the picture, which stinks. But it's basically just a sort of fisheye lens look at a photograph right there. So that's what it is. That's not really how they look like. That's why it's just that effect of the fisheye lens. But I think it's a pretty cool cover. And this is a pretty good pressing. The nice gatefold there. I forget what's in the middle. Ah, yes. I guess that's what they assume is what a Super Unknown looks like. I don't know what that would be, but it's on this nice color vinyl. I have a few of these that are on the nice color vinyl, and this is nice on clear red vinyl, and the other one's on clear orange vinyl. So, pretty cool pressings. Also wanted to show you this one. This bad boy, Bad Motor Finger, has a very cool etching on this side here. Just getting into the nitty gritty of the vinyl here. It is vinyl Voyage after all. Very cool, almost transcendent looking vinyl here. That is just an etching, so it doesn't really play. But if you spin it on your turntable, it'll basically intoxicate you. I have done this before. But all these are beautiful pressings, and I'm happy to have all these records. And Chris Cornell absolutely is one of my biggest influences in my life. Hopefully, he's in a better place right now, and we can all learn from his mistake and actually live our lives and have a good time while we're at it and listen to some great music. And Chris Cornell absolutely gave us that great music, great voice. And I'm so happy that he was on this earth for as long as he was. Thank you guys for joining me today on my top 5 favorite Chris Cornell albums. I am your host, Keegan Matheson, signing off. See you guys later.